Michelle, welcome to Funky Fridays with Bo. So, for your information, this conversation will be repackaged into a podcast, which will be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify on Friday.
Right.
So, anyway, it's 10 p.m. here, Sunday night. So just nice an hour or so to go. I'll knock off to bed. Yeah. So today my guest is Michelle Lazar Anhang from Ontario, Canada, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Michelle is a certified mental health coach. So she's here today to create awareness on mental health. So hello, Michelle, and welcome to Funky Fridays with Bo.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So maybe before we start, you could actually tell us more about yourself.
Yes, I'm, well, as you mentioned, I am a coach. I specialize in helping families and individuals who have mental health challenges, and also those that are moving forward through after loss. I'm the mom of two sons. They're now 21 and 18, and both in university or trying to be in university.
Okay.
With the current situation, it's kind of interesting to see what's going on.
Yes, I think everything is going online right now.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. So you said that you are a certified mental health coach. So is this mental health coaching is the same as mental health counseling? Do they do the same thing, and do they treat the same people? If not, what are the differences?
Yeah, so generally speaking, when we think of counseling or therapy, it's looking at where are you today and how did you get here? Coaching is looking at where are you today and where do you want to be? So often when we're looking at mental health, counseling, therapy, things like that, that might involve diagnosis, that could involve treatment. So that's more in the counseling and therapy realm. The coaching that I do around mental health is for people who say, yes, I have mental health challenges, and I also have things I want to do in the world. And I'm not letting that define me or get in my way. So that's where I step in and I help clients learn tools that empower them in moving forward and not just managing and really thriving with their mental health challenges, but whatever their dreams are. I'm a partner in a sense of, helping them with mindset, helping them with tools that, if, let's say we're talking about depression or anxiety, they're getting treatment from their doctor, and I'm helping them with tools such as mindfulness, different kinds of exercises, learning how to connect with their body so that they recognize signs earlier than they might have otherwise, so that they can then say, oh, I feel something's coming on. Here are the tools that I know that will help me or can help me, and move through that. So really helping people live their best lives.
I see. So basically you are a complement to a mental health counselor or doctors.
Yeah, and from the perspective of future focused, accountability, really goal oriented of, where we're looking at where does the person want to be and helping them get there.
Okay. So besides that, did you ever as a mental health coach experience difficulty in dealing with a person or a situation?
I've had clients that, had their own challenges. I am trained in mental health first aid. So if there are, if a person is going through a crisis, then I'm trained to recognize that something, is going on. And then I can refer them to different resources that can better help them. And there are people that sometimes come to me and they're not yet ready to be, maybe they want to move forward, but they still have work that they need to do with the therapist before they can really actively move forward. And I also did want to mention too that I help family members of people with serious mental health issues, because often the whole family gets involved. You know, it's a part of the entire family. It's not just the individual who is going through the experiences. So I work with the family members as well to what I call lovingly detach. So to be able to say, this person is having their experience, we'll get them the treatment that they need, we're going to be there with love, and we're taking care of ourselves too.
So basically, besides, if you compare between the person with the mental illness and the family members, so which one is difficult to handle?
That's a great question. And you know what? Sometimes it's the family members, because, we never want to see people we love suffering. And so sometimes we go into a mode of wanting to fix it. And that's not often what the person needs.
Yes.
And so the first thing that I say to anybody who asks, like, well, what should I do? I say to them first, okay, are they seeing a doctor? Are they seeing, their doctor, a psychiatrist, a therapist? If the answer is yes, I say, then they're taking care of themselves. You just need to love them and ask them what they need from you, because we forget to do that. And we just go into, oh, you should, you should go for a walk, you should exercise, you should get out of bed. And then, our family member gets resentful, or they get more upset, because that's not what they need from us. So it's so important to just ask, even if somebody's talking about, maybe somebody wants to explain the hard time that they're having, we start looking for solutions. And so I say, like, when they start talking to you, ask them, what do you need from me? Do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to help you find answers? Because this is then empowering the relationship.
Okay, so most of the time it's when this happens. So usually, do they have a collaboration between the person with the issues as well as the family members? So do they collaborate, or how do you manage these two? Do they sit together with you, or how do you manage that?
It really depends on what they want. Most often I'm working with the family members on their own, or the individual on their own. If they ask to meet together, by all means, but they have different needs. And so to be able to have the space, for me to meet with the family member, for the family member to just be able to say, it's so hard for me when they do da 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 da. You don't want the other person there, because that's not being sensitive. So this way, it's the space where they can just say whatever they're feeling. I can be with them for their experience, because their experience is real, and moving forward. And the same way with the individuals who are experiencing the mental health challenges, they want to be able to say, to do their own work, again, without feeling like their family needs to be with them, and, again, being part of fixing something. Because, we're all perfect in our own way, and there's nothing that needs to be fixed.
Okay, so because I've done some research, there's a lot of different disorders. Like the OCD, the PTSD, and whatnot. So, what are the usual kind of the person with the mental illness disorder do you sort of get most?
Mostly, I work with people that have depression, anxiety, ADHD. There's a little bit of OCD, but I don't heavily work in that area. But those are primarily the most common ones that people are experiencing, that are manageable when we have tools that can help us out. The more severe ones, I'm not trained to work with.
Okay. So most of the time people with depression and anxiety problems. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's I've also heard you talking about to listen as a family members, and usually if you can tell us what are the different like phrases that might help some people to open up. Would you have any sort of tips or to give us?
To open up to who?
To open up to, say, a family member. So
to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, I think it's important, to get the professional, to get the professional help you need to go speak to somebody, family member wise, speak to somebody that you trust, that can help you. That if that's what you're needing, if you're needing assistance in that, if it's just about saying, listen, this is what I'm going through. Again, it's about choice. It's always about choice. So it's just knowing, okay, I'm choosing to tell this person. And I often ask my clients, what's the outcome that you want from this conversation? And so to think about that, it's like, okay, do I want this person to help me? Okay, can this person help you? You may not want to talk to your 93-year-old grandmother if you need help with finding resources, because she might not be, I don't want to say anything about 93-year-old grandmothers. Maybe there are some that are great with the internet, but they might not be. So, then it's about, okay, if you're looking for help of maybe a professional, you want to ask a family member that can help you with that. If it's just about, getting the love, having the understanding, having somebody hold your hand, then which family member can do that? Maybe that's the grandmother, but maybe it's not the family member that doesn't have patience to sit and listen. That's kind of like, move on with it. So really think about who you're sharing it with.
I see. Okay, so you shared with us, with me, you said that this one is, I think, back to your personal experience. So right now I'm tapping on your personal experience about
Yes.
you lost your husband to suicide 14 years ago,
Yeah.
and your family had hidden the truth about his death for about 10 years, and then finally, because of shame and stigma. So maybe Michelle, can you share with us how was your coping mechanism then, and say, how do you build walls and around you? How do you overcome that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I had no coping mechanisms at the time. That's the truth, and that's why we hid it. It was easier to hide it than to face our fears and look at the shame. So yes, I built massive walls around me. Keeping something that big, really, you need those walls. You need those walls, and at the same time they destroy you. So really, I was isolating. I would only share a certain part of myself with people. Nobody knew everything. And that hiding just makes us shrink smaller and smaller. And then, of course, that led to me going through several bouts of depression. And I also had constant anxiety about, what if somebody finds out? My kids were little when it happened, and so we couldn't tell them and say, oh, don't tell anyone. So they didn't know the truth either. And I was always worried, what if my kids found out from somebody else? So, so much anxiety, so much fear. The depression came along with it. And it was about 10 or 11 years into doing this that I realized the patterns in my life that were so unhealthy, that I knew was caused in a big part by this. And I just said, I can't live with this much pain anymore. It just got to a point where I couldn't deal with it. And so I went to therapy, and I said, I will do whatever it takes. I can't live like this. I didn't realize that it was going to become, me sharing my story publicly and becoming a coach. I just didn't want the pain anymore. And so, yeah, it was a lot of therapy. It was a lot of talking to people, surrounding myself with people that I learned to trust, that had gone through their own experiences, where I felt safe to start talking about it. And then every little bit, it kind of, one brick at a time came down from my walls. And until, and I remember I was in a leadership course, and one of my teachers, I had told him about it, and he said, you need to tell your kids. Like, if nobody else, your kids need to know. And I said, I know, I'm just waiting till they're older. And he was like, no, this is taking up too much of you, and I realized it was true. And so with my teacher, with everybody that was in this program with me, that was supporting me, I got up the courage, and I finally told my children, and they were so understanding. And and that once that was out and I told them, because I think it was my biggest fear was that they would know and they would hate me for lying. But getting their understanding and their love gave me the courage then to share it more openly and more publicly until I got to this place. And I just want to share too with your viewers that, you know, we all have this huge fear, like we carry these secrets and we always think, well, if anybody knows, they're going to hate me. They go, you know, our minds go to terrible places of, you know, what will happen if someone finds out. And that wasn't my experience at all. I was so afraid of, you know, people are going to think I'm a liar. People are going to, you know, get angry with me because my husband and I grew up together. So we knew so many people from our childhood, you know, that were now like, you know, I posted it on Facebook. So I had hundreds of Facebook friends that knew my husband and I all these years, like thought it was that he died in a car accident. And then I'm like, okay, so, you know, posting on Facebook. So I know this is what you think, but this is my story. And I received so much love in return from that post. I cried all day. I have never experienced so much love in my life. And that was so healing for me, of just seeing, you know what, when you're ready, like people inherently are good. I know right now we're not seeing the best in people, but people really are good. People want what's best for us. We're all suffering silently in our own ways. And so when somebody, you know, shows up and says, yes, this is, and speaks about their pain, it gives everybody permission to say, oh, okay, you know what, I can feel a little bit more human too. I can feel more connected. Thank you for that. And that was really what I received from talking about my experiences.
Yep. So I guess, you know, a little everyone's positivity is one of the key factor also, that you didn't have a breakdown or meltdown after you
Oh yeah.
sort of tell everyone about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
that's
did it
good.
in stages. Yeah. You know, at first I told people that I trusted to see what their reaction was. And, you know, slowly it grew and grew until I said, you know what, okay, I'm done. Like, this is the easiest way to do this. Everybody will know. and I did. But at that point I had had enough people hear the story and I could see their reactions that, you know, I tested it out, that I felt comfortable. And I was like, okay, there are enough people supporting me that even if somebody has some kind of negative reaction, I'll be okay because I have so many other people I can go to. And the truth is, not one person had anything negative to say to me. So, you know, that was a big lesson for me too. You know,
quite
just
reassuring
wow,
everyone.
yeah, like we make it so much worse in our heads.
So when we say about the fear of stigma, so is it really true? Because based on what you have shared with us, it seems that there's nothing to fear at all. But we have always the person with this with a mental health issue would always have a fear of stigma to actually open up, right? So yeah, how do you share about that?
Yeah. So, you know, there is stigma. We have, like, this is why you have this podcast that you're doing. And, you know, this is why we're doing the work in the world that we're doing, because unfortunately, there is stigma. And I think most of it comes from people that don't understand or don't have experience. And I feel that it is our responsibility to be talking about it so people can get more of an understanding.
Yep.
And often, you know, and I know this was my case too, like, I felt the shame. You know, I wondered, was there more I could do? Is there anything I could have done differently? I felt, you know, the shame in my own questions and looking at my own mental health challenges. Like, I didn't like that I was depressed and staying in bed and couldn't get out of bed. I didn't feel like myself. So I was ashamed of me. But when I stopped being ashamed of me and ashamed of my experience with my husband, that's when I was open to talk about it. So I think, you know, when we think about stigma, we have to first look at ourselves and say, what are the judgments that I'm making about it? And then speaking publicly, you know, and overcoming our own judgments. And as, you know, I say to people, like, you know, coming from a place, when we're judging, our heart is closed.
Yeah.
And so it's about coming from an open-hearted place of compassion and seeing like, okay, this person is suffering, and seeing them, as somebody who's in pain, and realizing, okay, this is an illness. This is not, this is not somebody choosing to be like this. And from that loving place, I think, if we could all, my dream is that we could all get to that place, because that really would eliminate the stigma. We look at like what's going on with Kanye West right now.
Yeah, true.
And, there's so much judgment. And I wish people could see, like, he's standing up there, he's crying, he's suffering, he's in such pain. He doesn't want to be like this. This is not a choice he's making. The things that he's saying, are coming from a brain that is not functioning the way it's supposed to. The chemical imbalances, whatever it is. So things that he's saying, the way that he's acting, this is an illness. If it was a brain tumor, if it was something else that was causing something, we would have so much compassion. And unfortunately, we go to judgment. But I see him like, when I watched his video, the most recent one, I was crying. I felt so bad seeing him suffering so much. And so, my hope is that people can look at it from that place, and anybody that they know that might experience that. And rather than going into judgment, seeing like, okay, where can I open my heart? Where can I find compassion? Maybe from that place, we can see how can we help that person? Because that's when all judgment goes away.
Yeah, I agree. So, Michelle, there's a general notion that mental illness is for those who do not have a strong will. So what would your thoughts be on this?
I totally disagree. I think some people with mental illness are the strongest people that I know, because they, we're battling chemical imbalances and thought intrusions and different things while still trying to do everything that we're trying to do in the world. So it takes a lot of strength to be able to go through that, to be able to overcome that. I don't like when people take that perspective of being broken. And I know I lived in that space for a long time, and none of us are broken. Like, we're all perfect in our own ways, and we're just different. Okay. But definitely it's not a weakness.
All right. Yeah. Michelle, I have a question from the viewer. So he said about, do I start to help someone who I suspect under depression, or how or what should I do to help?
Well, if you suspect they have depression, but you don't know, I recommend first just having a talk with them, of just saying, I'm concerned. You don't seem like yourself. And just what you're noticing, if it's that they're tired all the time, if they don't want to go out, maybe they're speaking negatively, whatever that particular experience is, and ask them to go see their doctor. But sometimes when we say, I think you might have depression, that puts walls up, because people don't want to have that label. So just saying, listen, I'm concerned, you don't seem like yourself, go to your doctor and get checked out. Because the truth is too, there are medical conditions that have symptoms that are similar to depression, but it's not depression. There are vitamin deficiencies, B12, if we're low on B12, we can be tired all the time, and that can create negativity. So just saying, go to your doctor, tell them what you're experiencing. You may offer to go to the doctor with them, but just ask them to get checked out. That would be the first step.
Okay. All right. So I hope Daniel, one of my viewer out there, hopefully Michelle have answered your question. Yep. And the other thing, since COVID-19 and social seclusion has left us with no other choice or other option than to deal with our emotional troubles alone. So, and without the comfort and company of our loved ones. So previously in Singapore, we had this circuit breaker for about 3 months where we could not go out to talk, So those with people with mental illness are going through the darkest times during this period, I guess, and understandably so, because we now feel like we have no one to talk to. So how do you keep a check on, our own mental health, let's say those people who are, are having this mental illness, how do you keep them in check? And do you have any tips or say questions
Mhm.
one should ask oneself what of the problem they are facing?
Great question. I think the first thing is check in with yourself and just, what do you need? And I often will just say to clients, like, just put your hand on your heart and close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and just, what do I need right now? And the answer generally comes. And, it might just be, I need to sleep. I teach courses and on, and give presentations on what's going on right now, because so much of our lives have been thrown off. We don't have our regular routines. We don't have, the social connections that we had before. And I say first, like, look at what your schedule looks like. What does your routine look like? Before COVID, we all got up at the same time. We went to work. We did, whatever our lives looked like, we had that routine. Suddenly it's like everybody's home. We're staying up later. We're eating food that's not necessarily good for us. All of these things can have an impact on our bodies and on our mental health. So it's really looking at, like, okay, am I getting enough sleep, or am I watching Netflix till 2 a.m. and then getting up at 6? And, because yes, you're going to be tired and you're not going to feel great. So really taking a look at, like, how am I living right now? Am I moving around? I have one client who said, I'm not motivated anymore. And I said, okay, well, what does your day look like? And he said, well, I wake up at 7 and I take my laptop and I put it on my bed with me and I work for 2 hours. And then I just get up, and eventually in my robe, I go to my desk, and I'm like, dude, you're not moving. Like, our bodies need movement. And I was like, okay, no more, like, and we talked about it. I was like, can you get up and take a shower and go for a walk before you start your day? And he was like, oh yeah, I never thought of that. And it's like, okay, let's give it a try, see what works for you. Sure enough,
Mm.
our next call, he's like, oh, I'm doing so much better because he's moving. So just really looking at, like, what do you need to do? And connection, call your friends. Don't, if you need to talk to people, reach out, send a text message, or, book a Zoom call if you need to. And I know it's not ideal, but if that's what you need to do, then that's what we need to do. We need to see people however we can. And we do, as humans, we need connection. So losing out on that, it definitely has an impact on all of our mental health.
Yep. I agree with you about the connection part, because even so, like right now for me, once in a while I would, I have my families around, but
Yes.
I just fear about those who are staying alone. So I
Yeah.
believe connection is key. So for those
Yeah.
viewers out there, so if you have friends, who are staying alone, maybe just give them a call
Yeah.
or just start chatting
Yeah.
with one another. Yeah. So the other thing,
Absolutely.
like you mentioned about Kanye earlier, about he letting go. I also read Katy Perry shared her struggles with depression during a 96-hour live stream on YouTube,
Mm.
with the session with Siri Satnam Singh. So, and also Lady Gaga coping with depression also, and taking
Yeah.
medications. All these celebs are opening up on facing depression and mental illness. So do you think this will help other people come out and, to accept it?
I do. I think the more people that are talking about it, the more it's going to become, it's already a part of most of our lives in one way or another. And it's just about, I think it's not just the celebrities that need to talk about it. I think everybody just needs to start making it a regular part of, what's going on. If we have a cold, when we're talking to people, it's like, oh, I've got this cold. But we don't talk about, yeah, I'm having a depressive episode right now. But if we normalize it, it will just become part of regular conversation of, hey, this is what I'm going through, instead of becoming like, wow, it's something so special that a celebrity is talking about. But I'm glad that they're starting, because they are role models, and so many people do look up to them, and so many people admire them and want to feel that connection and need to feel that connection. So yes, it's great that they're starting, and the rest of us need to start doing the same thing.
Just to track back, in the previous times when you were coping with depression and whatnot, uh, there's no career path like a mental health coach. So is this mental health coaching a new career path, or how, what
You
is?
know, so I'm certified as a coach and I've done training in mental health issues. I have a degree in psychology, so I've combined the two. Um, you know, it is what you make it. You know, it's not a specific, like you can go to school and become that specifically. It's a, you know, it's learning about trauma, it's learning about the mental health and challenges, and like I mentioned about the mental health first aid, um, learning to recognize symptoms and then moving forward. But it's recognizing what is within the scope of training. For me, it really, I had done my coach's training, and I realized through my journey that this was just the, you know, the area that I wanted to help people, because I have that experience and I have that knowledge. So it just seemed like a natural fit for me.
Okay, so basically there are more avenues, if I might take it this way, there are more avenues for people to open up, because there's right now a mental health coach besides the counselors and the psychiatrists and the
Yeah,
doctors. Yep. So
yeah.
we have another channel that those people who are suffering, there's always a coach there to help guide you along, as well as your family members. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's, you know, you just want to make sure that your coach is familiar with it, whatever your mental health challenge is, that they know the signs, they know the symptoms, and they have tools that can help you as well. But again, it's about moving forward and where you want to be in life. And so the coach would work as your partner in helping you achieve your goals, with this added benefit of the knowledge around the mental health challenges.
Usually, what's the timeline that a coach has to spend time with the person? Or say, is there like you have to see me for the next 6 months, or a year? How do you how it does it work?
So generally speaking, you know, it takes about 3 months to start seeing results.
Mm.
You know, because we're changing a lot of patterns, we're changing mindset, and our brains are very stuck in their ways. So it takes some time. It takes time to learn the tools and put them into practice until they become part of your life. So it's generally minimum of 3 months.
Mhm.
I don't give a time limit because, again, we're reaching goals. So, you know, you might reach a goal and then say, okay, now I have a bigger goal I want to reach.
Mm.
And, you know, we're always growing as humans. So it's really about, you know, what the client wants. You know, I see coaching very much, you know, it's not that I'm the expert in you, you are the expert in you. So you know what you want, you know what you need,
Mm.
and I'm there to bring the tools that I have to help you get whatever it is that you want. So,
You are
you
like
know,
a
I have
bridge.
clients. Yes, yeah, yeah. And so, you know, I have clients that I've been coaching for, you know, since I started coaching. So it's been a
Mm.
few years. And then I have other clients that it's a short period of time where they're very specific of, I just want a few tools to help me manage my anxiety as I'm going through job interviews. And so I give them a few tools, a few mindset tips, and then, you know, our work is done. So,
Okay.
it very personal choice.
All right. Yep. So it's good, because I felt, having a mental health coach is good. It's just
Mhm.
because even in Singapore, there's a few. Tomorrow I'll be interviewing a health and wellness coach
Mm.
on this matter as well. So I believe not. I think it's everywhere that
Yeah.
there are this is quite an innovative sort of a career, so that to help people open up and whatnot. So, yep, it's very, very good. Thanks for being a coach.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
and now on a sort of a less serious note, because ultimately this is a show about getting recommendation and tips of what to do on a Friday night. Today is it's a Sunday, so tomorrow's work
Yeah.
day. So what does Friday looks to you? And maybe you can give us tips of those who are suffering from mental illness, or what kind of activities that they should engage in, and what are easy ways to stay stress-free in a hectic life.
Stress free. I love that. I don't, okay, I'm gonna start with that piece. So we see stress as something bad. Stress can actually be good, because when things are too calm, we don't change. Change doesn't happen, growth doesn't happen. So a little bit of stress is a good thing, because it kind of wakes us up to like, oh, what's happening, and it wakes us up into movement. So that's the coach in me giving a different perspective on stress. So looking at it from a different way of like, okay, what is this trying to tell me? And just asking ourselves that of like, okay, what is this stress trying to share with me, and what can I do about that? With respect to my Friday nights, that for me, that's my downtime. That's like, okay, the end of a week, lying on the couch, and really just relaxing. It's quiet, and then I can recharge for the rest of the weekend and the rest of the week. But yeah, Fridays I'm done. Nobody's talking. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. And my advice for people is do what you love. We don't do enough of what we love these days. We do so much of I should do this and I should do that, so much out of obligation. Think about the things that you love, what lights you up, and do as much of that as you can. I think we can't go wrong with that.
Okay, that's one of it's quite a good advice to them. Yep, I've heard this is one the last question about
Mm-hmm.
meditation, exercises, yoga. So what would you recommend for people with having a mental health issues? What are the exercises that do you think you could recommend to them?
Yeah. So really anything that you love, it's so individual. Um, Exercise is so important. It releases the happy chemicals in our bodies, which, then counter the ones that make us feel not so great. We feel stronger, we feel healthier. So whatever kind of exercise feels good for you is what you should be doing. Meditation and mindfulness are very important, I feel, in managing our mental health. I actually teach courses on that, specifically around mental health challenges, because often, there are many people that say, like, we think that meditation is, sitting like this for 20 minutes, half an hour, and it doesn't have to look like that. There are different ways to meditate. And sometimes even just I'll share with you one tip that I tell pretty much every one of my clients in the beginning is breathing exercises. So there's something called box breathing, where you inhale for 4 counts, you hold your breath for the count of 4, and then you exhale for the count of 4. And I say do that a few times, because that calms our nervous system. And the truth is, if you do that 5, 6, 7, 10 times, that's a form of meditation, because you're focusing on your breathing. So that's doing a breathing meditation. There are walking meditations. So, you could just be walking, and if you're aware of the present moment and you're aware of where you are now practicing mindfulness. You are practicing a meditation. There's a mindfulness teacher who says, like, if you just walk, and like every time you touch your foot on the ground, you say, my foot is kissing the ground. My foot is kissing the ground. My foot is kissing the ground. That's a form of meditation. So it's all wonderful for calming our nervous systems, especially now when things are so stressful.
Yeah.
It's all of these little things that we do that just slow our bodies, because, essentially our brains are going on overload because we have so much unknown in the world. We don't know when, we don't know from a financial standpoint, our jobs, our families, our health, and our brains are wired to look for safety. And, this is how we survive. And because we have so much unknown, our brains are constantly going. And so the key is really to get ourselves into a calmer space, because when we're looking for safety and we're trying to find that, we're not in a space where we can necessarily make the best decisions. Our bodies always, we know that when we slow down and we take a deep breath, it's like, okay, suddenly it's cleared up and I can make a good choice here. So it's really just getting our brains and our bodies to slow down as much as we can throughout the day. And in whatever way works for you. Some people it's yoga and other people it's running.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you, Michelle. Basically, we have come to the end of the conversation. And I would like to thank you, Michelle, for spending your Sunday morning with us, and also create an awareness about mental health and how to cope with it, and seeking professional help, like, having a mental health coach or counselor or psychiatrist. So I think the viewers out there really learned a few thing or two about today's conversation. For the viewers out there, so if you have any questions, or if you would like to connect to Michelle, with Michelle, you can Google her website. It's www.michelleanhangcoaching.com, right?
Yes.
Did I get it right?
You did, yes. And I use the same handle on Facebook. I have a page, and on Instagram as well, Michelle Anhang Coaching.
Okay, so because I've seen her website, there's quite good videos out there. So she updates her videos as well as blog. So if you want, you can actually go over and just type in Michelle Anhang Coaching, and you could find things there. All right. So really, I would like to thank Michelle again. It's about 40 over minutes. So thank you so much. Have a good rest. And, for me, for those of you who wants to follow my podcast, do subscribe, because if you want to get me noticed and to get the movement across going. Yeah. So, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Michelle, for your sharing. And have a great Sunday. And I hope to catch you all soon tomorrow. I'll be speaking to another coach at 5 p.m. tomorrow, a health and wellness coach, and we continue our movement on the hashtag and the stigma. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you very much. You too.
Bye-bye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Then head on over to iTunes and Spotify and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. If you have any other questions, suggestions, or feedback, do head over right now to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Twitch to like, share, and get involved. Till then, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and do catch the next episode of Funky Fridays with Bo next week.